morning, everybody. Gonna wrap up the chains I was sharpening last night before I left the shop. Got a big slug of them to do. Just want to show you a few more things on here. If you guys haven't already seen the USG grinders from Stihl, this is my go-to grinder. I mean, there's automated ones out there, and I can guarantee you that I can get these chains sharpened just as fast as the automated ones. And the good thing about doing these by hand is I can go through and inspect the chains. One thing that I did notice the other day when I was going through these chains, they had a Duro chain, was a carbide tooth chain, and a lot of the teeth were broken off there. So stuff like that I notice. I'm able to deburr the chains as I'm going through. Just overall inspection to see if any of the straps are sticking so I can get those lubricated and cleaned up. So there is a benefit to doing this stuff on your own. So let me jump right in here and I'll get some super chains sharpened up and button up this guy's order of chains. So this is a USG grinder. I've got the 3/8 325 cutting wheel on it. I'm going to look again for the strap. These are all Stihl chains. So green strap right here, that's going to be my starting point, and that's going to be my ending point. Just makes it really simple there. So you're going to go through, get to your first tooth, drop this down, get everything set. So you're just going to be taking the front end of that chain cutting tooth off. You're not really going to dig into the meat of that. So let's drop this in here and get going. And you don't need to lay into it real heavy. This machine has a stop up here. If you don't know how to really stop at the right point, I've done enough of these where you can just feel it, you know where to stop. The biggest thing is you don't want to cut into that strap because that could be a safety issue if it comes undone in the operation. You're just cleaning up the very end of that cutting tooth. And we just go all the way around until I hit that green strap again. And then I'll switch my degrees from positive on this cut over to negative. Almost made it around here. And there's my green strap. So you guys see that? That's the green strap right there I started with. Now I'm going to rotate and do the angle on the other side. And there's an adjustment right here, this little lockout. Pull it forward when you're doing this side of the chain. Down to 30 degrees, negative. Down to 15 degrees, negative on your B setting. Get your chain adjusted in there and drop it in and go. And again, I'm going to work all the way around until I see that green strap again. So get this a little closer for you guys so you can see. And then I tighten it down with this piece right here. Make sure the tooth doesn't move when I'm grinding into it. You don't need to go up and down a bunch of times. Just one clean downward motion with the grinder is enough to clean that edge up. You don't want the tooth to get hot and turn black or multicolored. And then you're weakening the metal. So just a nice clean drop right there. And we're almost around to the strap here. And a few more cuts. And I just do a visual inspection as I'm going around, making sure that there's no damage on the chain. And I'll mark it off for the customer if I see something that they should be aware of. If the chain's got a rusted area that's sticking, if there's more than a few teeth missing. So that is what the cutting tooth looks like. You see one right there. Nice and sharp there. See the point, see the silver color. No blue discoloration there. So that's exactly what I want to see. Gonna go to the next chain. So after you do enough of these, you just know if they're 325 or 3/8. And how you're really gonna tell on that is just the size of the cutting tooth. On your Pico chains, it's pretty straightforward. So like this chain right here, that is gonna be a 1/4 Pico. This is gonna be a 3/8 chain. So night and day difference on the size. So you're gonna have to put the right grinding wheel on there depending on what size chain you're working with. So this is my last 3/8 chain for this order. So again, I'm gonna locate the strap on there and then I'm gonna rotate through. Get everything set up. Double check. Take this in back a little bit since it's a newer chain. Don't want to take off too much at one time. Sort of fun sharpening chains if you got a nice setup. Pretty straightforward. Once you get your angles, it's pretty much dummy proof. The only thing that you got to watch out for, like I said, is taking too much off. Each chain you're going to want to have set up before you start running the grinding wheel through it. And then if your grinding wheel gets a little wonky, you can use your dressing tool to clean it up. This is a brand new wheel I just put on. Only done a few chains with it, so won't really have to dress that for a while. So I see all sorts of chains in here. This one's got a little bit of a burr on it. Let's see if I can get it to pull through. And when I say burr, that's going to be like a little lump on the drive link teeth. The drive link teeth are what sits against your sprocket, fits in your rail. And if your chain comes flying off at, 12, 13,000 RPMs, it's going to inevitably hit some contact with metal, and you're going to end up with some burrs on those drive link teeth, unfortunately. So you're just going to have to go through and clean those up. Usually you can do that with a Dremel flat file, something like that. Now I've made my way all the way around, got all those teeth cleaned up. Now I'm going to change my angles. I'm going to be going to positive 30 degrees since this is a 30-degree chain. I'm going to switch my B up to positive 15. And I'm going to go around and hit the corresponding side. Get started right here on my green dot. And then after we get these done, we'll hop over to the raker machine. I'll clean those rakers up, level them out. And the rakers are what's going to maintain the chip depth of the chain. So they're very important. You don't want to take them down too much. You don't want to leave them up too high. You want them just right. And I'll show you where just right looks like. All we're doing here is cleaning up that point and the gullet. Just going around until we see our strap. And there we go. So I got those all done. Now we're going to move over here to our rakers. I have the same machine just set up with a raker disc and the raker angles, so that way I don't have to adjust this machine. It just makes the process more efficient. So let me get this right here for you guys. So what we're going to do here, I'm just going to bring this down to make sure that the cutting wheel is on top of the rakers where I want it. And then this has a little gouge in the middle. When you start working with newer rakers, they have this point on there. That point inevitably leaves a little groove right in there. So in order to get rid of that groove, we have to dress this wheel, basically smooth it down till that groove's gone. So that way it can level out the surface. Otherwise, if we don't do that, it's gonna basically round and arch like that on the raker, and we don't want that. We just want a nice clean angle on there. So sometimes, depending on the chains, you'll have to go through and dress this maybe a couple times as you're doing one chain if it's a longer chain. But you want to do that because you do not want those rakers to be all wonky. So how you tell if your rakers need to be done, you've got this raker gauge tool. You're going to go ahead, set it on top of the chain. So if you set it right on top of your cutting tooth, like that, whatever sticks up right here, if you guys can see that, that's going to be the top of your raker that we need to take down to match the cutting tooth. So just right there, it's getting stuck on there just a little bit. So one drop of this machine will be enough to grind that down and get it where we want it. So let me go right in here and I'll show you guys the rakers. Dress the wheel first. So the raker wheels are my most expensive wheels, and of course those are the wheels that I go through the most frequently. So that drives a lot of the price of the chains. So in my shop, I charge $12 a chain. Doesn't really matter if it's a 12-inch chain or a 36-inch chain. By the time I get it all set up on here, it's relatively about the same amount of time to go around it and do everything. Larger chains are usually semi-skip chains. Smaller chains usually have more teeth per foot. So like I said, by the time it's all said and done, it's going to take about the same amount of time. So I don't know where you guys are in the world, but $12 is what I gotta have to pay for my grinding wheels, my time, and of course the machines. So they have gone up substantially. I know the Oregon ones, I sell Oregon grinders in the shop. The Oregon grinding wheels, those guys I'm retailing for over $30 a piece. They're pretty pricey. So takes a lot of profit of chains to be able to pay just for one wheel. So when I'm doing this, I notice how that raker has just a little black dot in the center. I don't know if you can see that. That little black dot it's a warning to me, letting me know that it's not leveling out. So I need to dress the wheel again. So that takes it away. Keeps that top nice and level. And I'm just going to go all the way around. So the chains I'll go through, I'll dress all the cutting teeth up first, then I'll work back around with this machine and do the rakers so that chain's done. Go on to my next one. Since these are all going to be 3/8, 325, they basically have the same exact setting, so I don't need to readjust stuff. It just makes it more efficient this way. If I'm doing a 1/4-inch pico, 3/8 pico, I'm going to have to adjust where that stop sits because they're obviously smaller distance on the cutting teeth. So I have to get everything lined up right. And again, all these rakers need to be taken down. I can go through and check them, but I've just done enough of these. You get a pretty good visual on where they're at. And after you check a couple of them, you know. So this customer is one that I always sharpen his chains. So I know that the chains are done right from the last time I had them in here. They're really easy to go back and clean up. He takes care of his chains. Other people, they sharpen them in between. They don't get the right angles on there. They might have taken them to another shop. The shop might not have known what they were doing. They get the wrong angles, create more work for me. That's just the way it is. I don't know if you can see the light reflect on those rakers. So nice and shiny on those. And this is going to be a yellow chain, so it's going to have a single raker. These eat up my grinding wheels more because it has less of a surface when I drop down on it, so it tends to put a nice little groove in my grinding wheel, which sort of sucks because I could have a new grinding wheel and by the time I do a slug of yellow chains, that wheel's trash. Got to keep dressing it, make sure that it's hitting the chain where you want it and your angles look good. But once you get the top of that raker established and everything is leveled off the way you want it, next time they come in to sharpen their chains, everything goes smoothly and there's less wear on my cutting wheels. So and just looking for my yellow strap again, that'll be my stop point. If you look at the straps, that's just the easiest way to keep track of stuff. Stihl is going to have yellow or green. Husqvarna will have a gold strap. And if you have off brands, I mean, you can take a little bit of fingernail polish or a marker or something and mark them out. So that way you can see where you're starting and stopping. Whatever you prefer. When you're doing rakers, it's pretty obvious when you get to the end because you've got nice shiny metal from where you've just cleaned it up, and you got a dull area from all the dirt and sap and oil and everything on there. So that's a pretty easy way to tell where you're at too. But as you can see, I'm just doing this manually without a foot stop. I'm not using one of the automated sharpeners, and I can do it fairly fast, fairly efficient. So there's not really any point of me spending $10,000, $15,000 on an automated machine, because on the chains, they're pretty much the lowest priority of repairs. I just do this stuff between customers when they come into the shop. Sometimes, like I said, in the fall, I'll get buckets of chains at a time, and that really consumes a lot of time going through those. But usually in the fall, it starts to get slower there too, because I'm not doing as much lawn care, equipment maintenance, you know, mowers, trimmers, blowers, stuff like that. Everything just sort of turns over into chainsaw mode. And we've made it all the way around there. So got one more left here, and I'll be done with this order of chains. And then I'm gonna move on to doing some other stuff here in the shop. So how I can tell when chains are getting towards the end of their useful life if you look on top of a chain, there's a line at an angle. It's going to be the angle which the chain is supposed to be cut. So if it's a super semi chisel 30-degree chain, it'll have a 30-degree angle on top. When I get probably 1/10 of an inch away from that angle, that's when I call it good with the chain, and I stop. If you take it down too much, I mean, you could theoretically keep sharpening as long as your machine can get into it without having an issue. You have a really small section of tooth holding onto the chain, and it just becomes a safety issue if you're breaking teeth off. So I don't want the liability here in the shop, so I just let people know once they're getting down to the end of the useful life that you should probably just turn it into a stump chain, and when you're done with it, throw it away. I mean, chains are expensive, but if you take the chains to somebody that knows what they're doing, I can probably sharpen a chain 12 times if there's no damage to the chain. So if you're doing it right, your chains will last for a long time. If you're taking too much meat off, I mean, some people might get 3-4 sharpenings, but I prefer to get as much life out of the chains as possible. So just taking less meat off will accomplish that. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll do some more videos this afternoon, so appreciate you watching. Have a great rest of your morning.